So I'm recording the session now. You may get a little notification, just so you know. All right. Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm so excited to be in the space with all of you. I so wish that we could be in person, but alas, here we are. My name is Athena Caitlin Trin, Athena. And my pronouns are she, her. That was my given sign from Gaytree and Jaydeep and Juan and Cassie Hope when we worked on a show together with Rose Neath. So it's the A and then Athena. Thanks, Latasha. I'm a settler in Toronto. I'm a queer Chinese Vietnamese actor, writer, and spoken word poet. I have dark brown hair, just past shoulder length. I'm wearing a red crop top with blue and white lines on the sleeves, with pink headphones that have light up cat ears. I am the Associate Artistic Director of Rose Neath Theatre, and I celebrate and dedicate myself to diverse, intersectional, and inclusionary art making. Andrew, if you would like to hop on camera really quick, just to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew. My sign name is actually Andrew, the A and then the L, but pointing because I direct. Very proud of that name that was gifted to me. So thank you to the same people who are working on the same team that Athena mentioned, some of whom are here in the room digitally today. And super thrilled to have you all join us from the other side of our artistic team. I'm the artistic director and co-artistic conspirator with the lovely Athena.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for being
Andrew.
Here.
So first, I would like to acknowledge that Rose Neath Theatre's office is located on sacred land that has been the site of human activity for over 15,000 years. This land is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. We acknowledge these nations and any other recorded and unrecorded nations who cared for the land as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land named Tikaranto. Where the trees meet the water, the gathering place. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. I do want to acknowledge that we're meeting virtually, so it is such a privilege for us to come together from all over Turtle Island, and I invite you to comment and write your acknowledgements in the chat where you're tuning in from, or later on when we're doing our Q&A, when you come on camera, you can also sign any acknowledgements that you would like to make. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our tips and tricks for a successful Recommenders Grants for Theatre Creators application. We are so grateful to Deaf Spectrum for supporting us today during our ASL supported RGTC info session, specifically for deaf artists. Deaf Spectrum was established in 2015 by Sage Lavelle after they realized that the accessible services, information, and resources available in American Sign Language were lacking in Toronto, Ontario, and across Canada. Deaf Spectrum was established to support community services to become more accessible and inclusive. We'll be conducting another RGTC info session on Tuesday, November 16th at 3 p.m. that will also be broadcasted live, and then both of these sessions will be saved as a video to watch in future. I'd want to introduce our interpreter. I did get a chance, but we have Latasha right above me or below me. I don't know how your screen has it. And we also have Tara who will be joining in, and they'll switch out. Today's session is a deaf-led initiative to create spaces specifically dedicated to deaf artists, where deaf artists feel empowered and safe to take space. At any time during the session, you can leave questions in the chat that I will answer later. And at the end of the session, we'll leave time for a Q&A discussion period. where you'll be able to use the raise hand function to let us know if you'd like to come on camera. We'll have ASL interpreters throughout the session, and the session will last about an hour long. If there are more questions, we're able to extend it just a bit longer as well. If you have any troubleshooting problems, feel free to, in the Zoom, feel free to message Franco or myself, but Franco will probably be ready to help you quicker. And I am happy to take pauses as needed to make sure that we're all running smoothly. Roseneath Theatre welcomes and encourages applications from, for, and about historically marginalized communities, including the 2S LGBTQ++, the IPOC, deaf and hard of hearing, blind, partially sighted, low vision, neurodivergent, and all disability community members. While the Ontario Arts Council's RGTC applications are submitted through OAC's Nova Hub, Roseneath is committed to providing accessible ways for artists to apply. Some ways that we're able to help are having email communications, phone conversations, text, online video chats, in-person meetings, any of those things to help clarify any questions or concerns, or even just to help you actually write your application. We are committed to providing ASL interpretation for meetings. We can help with scribing, assistance with processing and navigating the requirements of the OAC Nova application, anything like that. Please let us know what works best for you, or if you have an access need that hasn't occurred to us, please, please, please let us know. We're really willing to help, and we're excited to help. Although the building that our office currently resides in is physically inaccessible, it has 2.5 flights of stairs with no elevator. We are able to meet in an accessible location, distance or virtually, to help you with your application. Yeah, I think that gets all the general stuff out of the way. For now, I'd like to take a few moments, a brief pause, to allow you to get any note-taking tools you may need. Grab a sip of water, and we'll rejoin in about 3 minutes. So it is 3:20 right now. I'm going to turn off my camera and we'll come back for 3:23. Thank you all so much. Okay, everyone, thank you for that break. So now we get to get into some of the fun stuff, the application. So the first question I think we're all asking ourselves when we are applying is, should I be applying for a recommender's grant? So what makes a project right for the RGTCs? So the recommenders grants are for new works that are in the idea or creation stage. The grant's purpose is to open up space in your time and life for the creation of this idea. The idea should be strong enough that you're able to articulate why it is important at this time to be creating work, this work for Theatre for Young Audiences, or TYA. Roseneath wants everyone to know that equal consideration will be given to new ideas and plays presented to us by playwrights who have had association with the theater, creators who are new to Roseneath Theater, creators at all stages of their theater careers, and creators from all communities. So it's important before you write your application that you read the OAC guidelines thoroughly. This can be found on the OAC website under grants and then under recommender grants for theater creators. It's pretty straightforward. They'll tell you what qualifies and what doesn't, and kind of the overview of what makes a recommender's grant. This session is to kind of talk more about what Roseneath is looking for specifically. Since I came on as Associate Artistic Director, something that was very important to me is, as a theater company, that we're being transparent, especially for things like grants. This is a special thing because it's OAC's money, but as Roseneath, we get to choose artists to support. So I want to give everyone the best chance possible to get this money for themselves, to make this work. The application to Roseneath Theater does need to be submitted through the OAC's NOVA portal, which again is on their website if you go to grants.arts.on.ca. Physical submissions can't be accepted, so they must be on the NOVA portal to apply. If you need help with this, my email, which Franco will link, my email is always open to help you troubleshoot and to figure out how you can get your application in. More than anything, we want everyone to be detailed and clear. When you're going through your application, read back your answers and ask yourself, does this answer reflect who I am? Does it reflect what I want to create as an artist? Write to us how you speak. Write to us how you think. If text answers don't work for you, sometimes it's hard to get our ideas across through written word. Use the support materials, use the videos. If you need to use ASL in your application, Roseneath is committed to ensuring that a deaf artist will help evaluate your application with us so that you can feel free to communicate any way that you need or want. Let's see here. We don't need buzzwords and formal business talk. All of the grant jargon, that's not what I'm interested in. So with full transparency, we have a board or a panel of people who read through the applications. And when I asked everyone what they were looking for, a lot of people just wanted the passion to get through. Those buzzwords and the business talk, it doesn't get our blood going. We want inspiration. Why should we be excited in this project, as excited as you are? So for the support material section, you'll be able to send us extra videos, audios, slideshows anything like that to give us a better idea of who you are and what you're trying to create. So you can send us support material that helps us see your work and who you are. So there's a manuscript option, which gives you one document in PDF format. It's a maximum of 15 pages. There's a provide a script sample of past or current work that helps us figure out how you write and what you're trying to create. There's audio and video of past or current work, or you can use this audio and video to just talk to us if that's what you need it to use it for. Make sure that you're using the application. They're tools, so use them how you need them. What works for you? The acceptable video formats, they're listed on the OAC website, but they are AVI, MOV, MPEG, MP4, WMV. And the maximum size is 500 megabytes. There is an option to give us links to Vimeo if there is a larger file, and we can view it in that way as well. The accepted audio formats are MP3 or WAV, and the maximum size is 20 megabytes. So when you're filling out your application, you have to think to yourself, is this show specifically for young audiences? That's something that comes up a lot for us. We get applications that sometimes we feel like we're just part of a list of theaters that you're applying to. But when we're looking at Roseneath Theater, we do TYA. And theater for young audience, it varies across the board, but the show should probably have the main character is a young person. That's a good indicator that the show is specifically for young audiences. Ask yourself, will a young audience be interested and excited in this idea? What kinds of shows, ideas, themes do you wish that you had access to when you were growing up? And how does this idea relate? Like I've been saying, passion. Why are you passionate about this? You know, get us as excited as you are about this project. If your idea is more of an ideal, or it's pandering or talking down to audiences, you might need to rethink your idea, relook at it, re-examine why this story is important. What's the message you're trying to share? Young audiences are smart and intuitive, creative, emotionally intelligent. Think to yourself, have you spoken with a young person recently? They have opinions and know what they're talking about. What will a young person or audience gain from this story? What questions might they ask? Meet them where they're at and create work that will excite them and that they'll be excited to engage in. We definitely encourage meetings before you apply. In the Zoom chat, you'll see my email is posted there, associatead@roseneath.ca. That's what I'm doing with my time these days, emailing with other artists, and I'm really enjoying it. Going over your ideas, it's kind of my favorite part of my day right now. We would love to sit down or have a Zoom call, coffee chat, talk about your idea, get down to the nitty-gritty of application. I'm happy to talk through your idea and figure out how to put your best foot forward in the formal application. So if we're looking at the actual questions that they ask, I am going to share screen in a moment. If you'd like to screenshot this, so I can pull that up again at the end of what I'm saying. I just want to make sure that Tara is able to be seen. In that screenshot is the artistic merit question. It asks you to tell us about you or your group's overall artistic work. the history, achievements, what's important to you in your work, cultural influences, your identity, geography, community, language, and why. And it asks if you identify with any of the priority groups. Now, this question is 300 words maximum. And it's more of a general overview of who you are and your influences. Especially if Roseneath hasn't spoken to you before, this is your chance to let us know what's important to you. Give us a clear idea of why TYA is important to you, and what influences your work in theater for young audiences. Why should your work matter to young audiences? Tell us something that might not be reflected in your resume. You know, you only have 300 words, so think of your entire application as a package. Your resume is one part. I can read what plays that you've written or what things you've acted in. What else can you tell me about who you are and what you'd like to share? The second question that is asked is, what are you planning to do and what do you want to achieve with this project? This one is a maximum of 425 words. This is more of the explain the why of the project. Why are you doing it? Why is it artistically compelling? Why did you choose this project? And why is this project timely? So this is more of the detailed response of why this specific project. Your checklist might include why this project? Why are you passionate about this project in particular? How does this project pertain to theater for young audiences? How do you create? Share with us a little bit about your creative process. What kind of questions do you hope young audiences will have about this project? So again, I will share screen so that you can screenshot both of these questions and that checklist that I provided. This is the first one, artistic merit. And the second one. And to kind of demystify what the OAC grant application is like, those are the two main questions that you're going to be asked. So 300 words and 425 words. And that's just the maximum. Again, if you need to use support materials to help aid what you're talking about or your idea, we definitely encourage that. We'd love to see what you've written in the past, what you have written already for this idea. Again, if you need to send us a video of you doing ASL, we will provide and we will have and ensure that a deaf artist is also in that process with us to make sure that we understand what you're trying to share. Let me just make sure that I've hit all my key points. Before I move into the discussion period, Andrew, I wonder if there's anything that you are now realizing I might have missed.
No, I think you pretty much hit on everything that you and I had discussed. So I think we're in good shape.
Great, thank you,
Great stuff.
Andrew. So then without further ado, I would like to move into the question and answer and discussion session. In this time, if you would like to come on camera to have ASL interpretation, please do so. You can raise your hand and we will allow people up on camera that way. There's the raise hand function in Zoom. Or if you'd like, you can you can write in the chat any questions you might have. So we have one in the chat with Sage. I'm just curious about the age range of young audiences. Yes, so Rosie, particularly what we're interested in is going into schools. That's what our past has been. So we have had shows from, I guess it's kindergarten, right? We've had shows from kindergarten all the way up to grade 12 that we've showed, that we've had shows go into schools for. So that would be kindergarten would be age 5 to 18, which is when you would graduate as well. No problem. Thank you, Sage, for your question. Any other questions we might have? Andrew, do you have any frequently asked questions from the past? Maybe we could help. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I can hop on here. I'll just lower my hand now. Some of the themes that we find that schools are looking for are certainly things that you would have heard or read about in the media. Certainly a lot of things on climate change and the environment, huge discussions going on in the schools. Probably remember before the pandemic, students from high schools in Ontario going out on strike on the Fridays, the end of the week, and actually protesting that we can be doing better for the environment. So that's a huge topic. And certainly many of the topics that you would have experienced growing up yourself. We have explored themes and issues on bullying in schools. That's often a thing that comes up. Where can you step in and help? Certainly looking at different communities and stories, whether that's people coming from another country to Canada, like our production of La Maleta, the suitcase, and looking at different languages, through to the shadow interpretation that we did this summer with deaf artists, many of whom are in the virtual room today with Canadian Stage. So those are a few of the sort of frequent themes, but certainly relationships for middle school and high school. It's another big one. Kids trying to figure out how do you navigate that. A lot of coming of age type stories, realizing stuff about yourself, whether that's realizing something about your parents. We've certainly done stories about divorce as well from a child's perspective. To show a young audience what that feels like from a child's point of view. So those are just a few of the kinds of things that we've looked at. And I encourage anybody, if they're curious, to just look at the history section of our website that talks about past productions. And you can kind of Google different things that we've done if you're curious to know more about the themes and stuff that we've explored as a company. But we're always interested in new ones. So, yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Do we have any other questions? If anyone wants to come on camera, they can raise their hand and come on camera or just type into the chat box.
I'll just maybe jump in and, Athena, you talked a little bit about one of the things that I know both of us kind of go, oh, no at, which is the talking down to young audiences. Young audiences can smell inauthenticity. They know if you're being fake. They know if you're being over the top and kind of giving them a stern message and a stern talking to. And that's kind of the the sort of feeling that we don't want. We want kids to hopefully see themselves reflected. As you say, they're dealing with complex emotions, even though the young people, they're dealing with the same complex emotions that adults do. And I think that sometimes we forget that. And I loved your advice about talking to a young person. If you have a young person in your family or in your life that you can connect with and ask them about your idea, they may give you really great ways to augment and make your idea even better and stronger, because they bring a unique perspective. They see the world in a very different way than we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that there's something also valuable in, does this story speak to my inner child? Something of, I guess it touches on what did you hope for in that would come to your school that was talked about. I think that's something that during Ladies and Gentlemen, Boys and Girls, working with Samson Brown, something that he would say often was, when I was a kid, I never had this language to come out to my parents. And I didn't know how to tell my best friend that I wanted to be this instead of that. So I think that was such an interesting moment that, Ladies and Gentlemen, Boys and Girls is for an audience from grade 4 and up. And for me, it touches me just the same, because it's not about talking down to that age group. It's more about talking to our inner child and giving a path. Yeah. Oh, Sage said, I loved that play. Thank you, Sage. Juan says, hi, what about actors? Will be able to hire deaf actors with voice actors? I think that's a really awesome idea. I think that's something that Roseneath is hoping to pursue. We've been in talks about it. I mean, ever since being in that rehearsal room for Ladies and Gentlemen, Boys and Girls with our deaf interpreters, it was kind of that idea of, what happens if we flip the script? If the main characters are the ones of the deaf artists and we have voice actors over top, what does that mean? I think that's a really exciting idea to be exploring, especially with that recommenders grants. It kind of gives us that leeway. The grant is $1,000 to $3,000. It gives you space and time to think about those things, to write what that might be. But yes, definitely, we encourage that. Super. Of course, thank you, Juan.
Certainly some of the things that both Athena and myself have worked on, both at Roseneath and outside of Roseneath, is stories that we haven't seen before on stage, that we haven't seen shared. And so we're very much interested, if you've never seen a certain story and you want to explore that, this is exactly the kind of thing that we'd like to have as part of an application to our GTCs. Because we know that there's, I know that there hasn't been a lot of TYA that has queer characters. And so I've spent a lot of time creating that type of work. And Athena, I know your show that that you did at the Next Stage Festival that you wrote is also, that for you, you hadn't seen a story that sort of reflected your family and your culture and your that sort of tradition, which I think is really beautiful. And so those, if you're thinking along the lines of, what could I bring from my world? Well, what perspective and what characters have you not seen on stage for young audiences? And let's put those characters on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's even, what are the characters we want to reclaim as stories that we've seen in the past. I mean, for me, a huge thing was whitewashing and what that's like. So me creating that story for Next Stage that I presented at Next Stage, so much of that was just reclaiming my culture again. You know, these things that are seen as exotic, and that's why you're special. All of those things, cultural appropriation. I wanted to reclaim those things again and make them mine. So to extend on what Andrew's saying, you know, sometimes when we're creating work, yes, sometimes it's for ourselves. And I mean, when I wrote 49th Day, it was to help an inner child of my own. But it ends up speaking, the more specific I find, it ends up being even more universal when we're specific.
Athena, you were so thorough in your presentation.
Clearly.
There are very few questions.
Very few.
Yeah, and I encourage anybody who is either watching the recording of this, make sure that you reach out to Athena and or myself, but certainly Athena to sort of let them know about your idea. Another way that you can think about things for young audiences is asking yourself, what do I wish someone would have told me, or what story I wish I would have seen when I was younger? Sort of playing off of the Samson thing that you mentioned, Athena, earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks, Sage. Just trying to think of more questions. And it's funny because a lot of the questions that we find with this process come out of people being able to sort of work on it a little bit and kind of get to a point where they need to sort of have a conversation. And that's okay too, because you may not have an idea of what sort of idea you want to explore yet, and that's fine. We do have time. This is why we're doing it this early. Our deadline is over a month away, Monday, December 20th. So, there's lots of time to connect and to sort of think about this. And the other thing to mention is that there are some other companies that are also accepting applications for theater for young audiences. So I'll just finish that one thought in that so if you go on the website, you can apply to Roseneath with your idea, but you could also apply to the other companies that specialize in theater for young audiences. I'm going to pop off my camera and let Katri jump on.
Thanks, Andrew. There we go.
Hi. Oh, I just had it. I forgot my question. What was my question? Oh, right. Okay, sorry, I missed the age range. Do you mind saying that again?
Yeah, so Roseneath looks for shows from as young as 5 years old, which is kindergarten, up to 18 years old, which is graduating from high school, their final year.
Okay. Because my script specifically talks about the social deaf experience, but I think maybe my script, it's more of like a fantasy, and they have a lot of metaphors throughout. And so I'm wondering, like, it's about somebody who's struggling with their identity as a deaf person and coming into their identity. And so there's a lot of context, for example, language deprivation. And so I'm just wondering, maybe it's a stupid question, but like, would that be an okay example for the age ranges that we're talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, like I was saying before, young audiences are capable of taking in really deep topics. And I'm sure that there are lots of young deaf people that are going through that kind of identity crisis. Who am I? And what does me being deaf have to do with who I am? And I think something to touch on again is that the recommenders grants for theater creators, just because we are providing money for this grant, or the recommendation, it doesn't necessarily mean that Roseneath is hoping. We're not going to just choose the ones that we want to produce, right? Sometimes we just want to be able to fund these things, and then later on, you're able to find better support of who that audience might be, etc. Roseneath is just, we're committed to making sure that artists, get some money in their hands. So we're happy to do the recommenders grants to find those stories that we're excited to tell as well. So it might not be a Roseneath thing that we go into schools, but it might be something that Roseneath is able to support in whatever aspect it ends up going into.
Okay. So there's the recommender grant application, but then Roseneath Theatre is separate from that, and that's a different process. Is that what you're saying? Like how, I don't know, maybe it's the right time to ask this question or not, but
this is great. Yes. So
because maybe it's a little bit off topic. I'm a new writer. I have been involved with script development, script writing as a team. I do work with another deaf colleague, and there's 7 of us, but it's mixed audiences, mixed company, sorry, both hearing and deaf folks. And so we're still going through the process of figuring out our play a little bit. So I'm just wondering if that's something that I could bring forward. If you're interested in checking out our script, is this something that I could apply for at the same time as some other things that I'm applying for? I'm just trying to get more information.
Absolutely. So the recommenders grants for theater creators is an OAC grant. And they have a list of theater companies that are the recommenders. So we're allotted an amount of money from the OAC. And as a theater company, we choose how we give out that money. It's $1,000 to $3,000 limit. So we invest in certain projects, and we decide, okay, this one looks like maybe we want to support it a little bit more. There's more people, so we do 3,000. This one's one person. They're asking, they want to like have a week to work on it. Maybe we'll do 1,000. That's kind of how we decide. But we choose as a theater company. So the purpose of this information session is kind of to let artists know what Roseneath is looking for specifically, what we would want to support and back. So looking for that passion, the strong idea. If you're still trying to figure out the idea, Gayatri, I think that's something that's interesting to put in your application. And the ways that you think that it would benefit a young audience. Because then as Roseneath, we can look at that and think, oh yeah, that is an interesting idea. How would that happen? I want to recommend $1,000 to that project so that we can see it become something for young audiences. Andrew, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to add that we've had people apply before that we've granted them money or that we've recommended them for. And they realized after they spent, the time that the $1,000 allowed them, they realized it wasn't a show for TYA in the end, and that's okay, because that can happen. And the other thing being that the idea with the recommenders, as Athena mentioned, is that it's to kind of give that seed money, to give you time to explore an idea, and a number of things out of the recommender grants. We have then invested further money into, because the idea is now fully formed or started to be a little more formed. And then what we would do is workshop that idea, is sort of what we've done. So a show in our past, like Outside by Paul Dunn, we gave it some money for them to start writing the play. And then after that grant, we went, oh, this is an exciting play. And then we spent 5 years touring it, which was great. But this is a play, it's a no strings attached way for an artist to just have a bit of time in their life to explore something, which is a beautiful thing that the Ontario Arts Council does. Because who gets that? It's amazing. And apologies if I was going too quickly.
No, it's okay. Just one more question. So could the application be done under a company or as an individual?
So it can be under a company. In the questions, they specify if you're talking just about yourself or a group of individuals. So you can apply as like a company.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank
That's
you.
all my questions.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited about your idea.
Me too. Juan has a question. Juan, did you want to come on camera? We can see you.
Hello, Athena. Hello, Andrew. Nice to see you both. I'm very happy to be taking this workshop, and hello to the interpreters as well, by the way. I just recently finished my script. I just completed it. So I'm actually going to, I'm planning to submit that for the grant, but I had a couple of more questions. Is part of the process, would we be able to have one of you look at our script and see areas where we could do a little better or rejig some of the things in our script?
Yes.
Is that part of what could be part of this process?
Absolutely. So one of my jobs as Associate Artistic Director, one of the main parts is the RGTCs. So I am happy to go over your script with you, go over your idea with you, to help make sure that when you apply, that you're putting your best foot forward. And also, Juan, I mean, I'm always happy to read any of your work. So.
That goes for me too.
So you're suggesting, from what I'm understanding, we should have a conversation before I actually go ahead and do the formal application. Is that right?
I think that's best, just to make sure that you are representing your idea and yourself the best way possible. Because like I said, there's maximums in the words and stuff and how to use support material. So I want to make sure that you get the best opportunity to present yourself and your work so that when we pass it along to the panel at Roseneath, that everyone has a good idea of who you are just from this piece of paper and from the support material.
Okay, that definitely helps. So we're talking about, in terms of a show, if we were doing a script to actually be performed, you're thinking of a show that would be 1 hour in length. Would that be ideal?
So the best part about the RGTCs is that it's going to give you time to think about these things. So I wouldn't be worried so much about that right now. Right now, think about your idea, making sure that you're getting across your idea, because if it is something that you want to continue working with Roseneath, that's all something that we can work on as like a full a full thing later on, you know? Me and Andrew talking about, oh, we really like this idea, we want to workshop it, you know, it's a little long or it's a little short, we can talk about those things later. But I mean, with this grant money, with the $1,000 to $3,000, that kind of gives you space to think about those things. Andrew, did you want to add something?
Okay, thank you. That's so very helpful.
Yeah, and the other,
I was so concerned about time, so that actually kind of got in the way of my process a little bit.
Oh.
You know, here I am writing this script, and I mean, I'm very happy I came to the end of it, but I'm also happy to have this information session today and glean more from both of you. Oh, sorry, Andrew, did you have something to say?
I was just going to mention that we've had people apply with a 1-act play that became a 2-act play. We've had people apply for musicals that have casts that are too big for us to ever produce, that have been funded. So it doesn't have to be something that Roseneath ends up producing. But yeah, if anything's getting in your way is to explore your idea at the moment, I would say just take that out of your head and then just move forward, as Athena said, with just talking about the idea and the questions you want to explore. You know, like what are the questions you're asking with sharing this story of your audience? What are you wanting them to think about? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan.
So good to see you.
All right, I'm just going to leave the floor open for any last questions we might have. I think we're clear, in the clear, Andrew. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I feel like we've touched on all of your main points. And just thinking about if you're thinking about young people and how they might take a story in, you're already going to be light years ahead of anyone who hasn't had a chance to see this video, because that's going to really help you to think from that perspective. And as Athena said, children in our experience tend to be drawn to protagonists and characters that are closer to them in age. So they're less interested when the adult characters are on stage. They're really wanting to know what's going on with the children. So that's another thing to kind of think about, is if they follow the character that resembles or is closest to their age, and you have a character like that, how do you reflect the reality of that age to those young people? And they're, if you talk to a 9 or 10-year-old, they're a lot smarter than you might think, and very, very computer savvy, as we all know. So those are kind of the things to think about. But any audience, you're going to keep their attention if you have a compelling idea that gets people excited. And as Athena said, if you're passionate and excited about your idea, and that shows up in your application and in your videos and your support materials, then the committee and ourselves who are evaluating those are going to be as excited and passionate about your idea. One of the things to mention also is that every application is viewed by 2 different committee members to make sure that we are evaluating them properly. And as Athena alluded to earlier, we will ensure that we hire an interpreter to work with us so that we make sure that any applications that are coming in meet your access point. So if there's a video that you send in that is all completely signed, that's wonderful. It's our job to make sure that is understood by our committee members clearly and directly, and we will ensure that happens for all of the deaf artists who apply.
And I just wanted to remind everyone that my email is always open. Just because we're at the end of the information session doesn't mean I've stopped thinking of you. So please feel free to email me and we can go over your idea. We can go over the little nitty gritty things of the application. Whatever you need, I am very, very happy to help. Thank you all for joining our session today. Thank you, Tara and Latasha, for interpreting for us. Thank you, Deaf Spectrum and Sage. We're really grateful to have such a strong team with us and to have been able to lead this information session. Sage, especially your suggestion of having a space for deaf artists specifically. I think that was such an amazing idea, and we're so happy to accommodate and to provide that access point. Oh, thank you, Andrew. All right, well, thank you all. I will stop recording, and I hope everyone has a lovely, lovely day and a lovely, lovely weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being such an awesome host, Athena. You've been great.
Thank you.